disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help.
So we all knew Diddy had secrets, but nobody thought it'd go this deep. Cassie just dropped a bomb that's got the entire industry in panic mode. And get this, what she's exposing isn't just about their toxic relationship or messy breakup. She's hinting that Diddy's real job wasn't music, wasn't business, wasn't even fame. It was something way darker, something they allegedly called FreakOff. And once you hear what that actually means, you're gonna look at the entire bad boy empire completely different. This isn't just some tabloid rumor. The court documents are chilling. Like, we're talking secret parties, hidden cameras, high-profile names being thrown around.
Sean Diddy Combs' trial will feature some graphic evidence during an April 25th court hearing ahead of the rapper's sex trafficking trial, which is set to begin jury selection on May 5th.
And Cassie says she was trapped right in the middle of it. And the craziest part, it's all starting to make sense now. The fast settlement, the silence from celebs, the weird whispers over the years. This isn't new. It's just finally being dragged into the light. So buckle up, because we're about to break down exactly what Cassie said, what FreakOff allegedly was, and why Diddy might have been hiding way more than anyone realized. Alright, so here's where it all starts. Cassie Ventura. Most people remember her as the beautiful singer behind the 2006 hit Me and You, or as Diddy's longtime girlfriend who seemed to be living the dream, front row fashion shows, luxury vacations, and red carpets galore.
This is incredibly disturbing footage, so I do want to warn our viewers, as you did. But as you said, Cassie's lawsuit, which was filed in November of 2023 and then was quickly settled overnight.
But what the public saw? That was just the polished surface. Behind closed doors, Cassie says it was a nightmare disguised as a relationship. In November of last year, Cassie filed a jaw-dropping lawsuit against Diddy, and it wasn't just about emotional abuse or financial control. She alleged years of SAHTG, forced drug use, and being coerced into disturbing acts, all orchestrated by Diddy himself. And here's the kicker. Within just one day, the lawsuit was settled, quietly, behind closed doors. No trial, no statements, no denials. Just gone. That alone raised serious red flags.
Opening arguments are now set for Monday. Prospective jurors were asked again if they have seen this video of Combs attacking then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura inside of a hotel back in 2016.
Because when someone with Cassie's platform finally speaks up, and the case disappears that fast, people start asking questions. Now here's where the term FreakOff enters the picture. At first it sounded like some twisted inside joke, a phrase used during Cassie and Diddy's relationship. But according to court documents and insiders who've started coming forward, FreakOff wasn't just a nickname, it was a code name, a label for an alleged underground lifestyle Diddy was running behind the scenes. What kind of lifestyle, you ask? We're talking high-end ST, secret locations, hired male workers, and women allegedly being groomed, recorded, and passed around elite circles. Cassie claims she was forced to participate, often while drugged, all while Diddy allegedly watched, recorded, and controlled everything.
Government's lead witness in the Diddy trial, Cassie Ventura, was seen looking very pregnant with just 3 days to go until opening arguments are set to begin.
It wasn't just a few wild nights, it was a pattern. And according to her, it went on for years. So why now? Why is all of this exploding again if the case was already settled? Because the internet doesn't forget. Since Cassie's filing, more alleged victims have started speaking up, and clips from past interviews, like 50 Cent calling out Diddy's parties, or old footage from insiders who dropped subtle hints, are all resurfacing. People are starting to piece the puzzle together. Suddenly, all those cryptic interviews, whispers in the industry, and odd behavior make a whole lot more sense. And now, FreakOff isn't just a bizarre word floating around social media.
They did not know that he was recording them. I mean, when I read through that lawsuit, Rodney made it very clear that he had hidden cameras. And if you are a person like LeBron who says ain't no party like a Diddy party, you got Ashton Kutcher talking about what happens at Diddy parties stays at Diddy parties. And finally you learn via the press that actually Diddy has been collecting evidence.
It's the centerpiece of a scandal that could blow open one of hip-hop's most powerful empires. So yeah, what started as a breakup turned lawsuit, it's unraveling into something way bigger. And Cassie's voice? It might be the first domino to fall. Okay, this is where things go from disturbing to straight up horrifying. Cassie didn't just throw around vague accusations. She laid it all out. Graphic, detailed, and brutal. In the lawsuit, She painted a picture of life with Diddy that sounds more like a psychological horror film than a relationship. And it wasn't just emotional manipulation or behind-the-scenes arguments. No, this was about power, control, and a twisted obsession with domination.
You gotta say no to Diddy. If it's new booty in the building, you know he gonna get it.
Don't take your girlfriend to a Diddy party.
Nigga, you can take the but he wants you.
According to Cassie, Diddy forced her to perform acts with male workers, not just once, but repeatedly, and would film it all. These sessions, she said, weren't consensual in the way most people think. She claimed she was often drugged, coerced, and psychologically beaten down until she felt she had no choice. Diddy allegedly paid these men, gave Cassie substances to lower her resistance, and then stood back with a camera while the whole thing went down. One quote from the court filing hits especially hard. Mr. Combs forced Ms. Ventura to engage in acts with male workers while he filmed, masturbated, and watched. That's not tabloid gossip. That's a direct line from a legal complaint, typed up by attorneys who knew this would be examined under a microscope. And the worst part? It wasn't just about gratification.
He was the devil. He's been the devil for 30 years. He's been covered and protected by not only Clive Davis, but Lucian Grange.
Cassie said this entire system was built on control. If she refused, he'd allegedly withhold money, threaten her career, or explode in violent rages. The fear was constant, the power imbalance inescapable. She even claimed he would beat her, stomp on her, and one time allegedly blew up her apartment after she tried to leave. Yeah, blew it up. With a real explosion. That's the level of intimidation we're talking about here. And it all ties back to the FreakOff operation. Cassie claimed this wasn't a one-on-one thing. She said Diddy had a network, connections, resources. She was being used in a system that allegedly catered to Diddy's fantasies, but may have involved others too. Models, workers, employees, even security staff that helped coordinate these so-called freak-offs.
Today, in a New York federal courtroom, Sean Diddy Combs told the judge he was, quote, a little nervous. The rap mogul's criminal trial began this morning. He is sex trafficking, racketeering, and more.
The language in the lawsuit made one thing terrifyingly clear. This wasn't just some toxic relationship. It was an infrastructure of abuse. So when Cassie finally broke her silence and filed the suit, it wasn't just to tell her truth. It was to document years of alleged crimes and hint at something way bigger bubbling underneath the surface. And the fact that Diddy settled in less than 24 hours? That's not normal. That's panic. That's damage control. And it begs the question, what else is he afraid might come out next? Now let's talk about that one word that's got everybody spiraling, FreakOff. At first glance, it just sounds like something wild and edgy. Maybe a nickname for a party or a private joke between two people. But according to Cassie and others close to the situation, FreakOff was anything but playful. It was the code name for a dark, organized, and deeply disturbing operation, one that may have been running right under the industry's nose for years. Cassie claimed that Diddy used the term FreakOff to describe a specific kind of event, hyper-exclusive parties where women were allegedly coerced or trafficked into performing acts, often under the influence of drugs while being filmed. And she says these events weren't spontaneous. They were planned, structured, coordinated, sometimes with security involved, sometimes with money exchanged, always under Diddy's control. She described freak-offs as recurring setups where she was provided with male workers, expected to perform in front of Diddy, and forced to take substances to make her more compliant. These weren't spur-of-the-moment nights of chaos. They were part of what she alleged was an entire system built around exploitation. And here's where it gets even scarier. Once that word hit the court filing, other people started recognizing it. Insiders, former bodyguards, people who've been around Diddy's circle for years. They started whispering, some anonymously, others more boldly. One former associate reportedly said FreakOff was common knowledge in those inner circles, a term used to describe nights that were off the books, meaning no phones, no cameras, except Diddy's, and no witnesses outside of his trusted circle.
And we have more breaking news. Opening statements are underway in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial. Prosecutors claim Combs ran a criminal enterprise with his trusted inner circle and committed crime after crime for 20 years.
Let that sink in. We're talking about something that allegedly operated under a name like a brand, something you only understood once you were on the inside. It was whispered about but never challenged. And if what Cassie says is true, that name, FreakOff, wasn't just about what happened behind closed doors. It was the name of a pipeline of control, where women were used, recorded, and discarded like props in someone else's fantasy. And the moment that name went public, that's when everything started falling apart. Suddenly, fans were digging up old interviews. Past collaborators like Mace, 50 Cent, and Jaguar Wright, who had once dropped cryptic comments about Diddy's lifestyle, were being re-examined. Clips started resurfacing where people almost said too much, then stopped short. And the internet? It went into full-on detective mode. So yeah, FreakOff isn't just a buzzword anymore. It's the centerpiece of what might become one of the darkest scandals in music history. And if it was real, if this operation truly existed the way Cassie described it, then that means she wasn't the only one involved. Not by a long shot. Now here's the part nobody really wants to talk about. Because if FreakOff was real, if this whole system of abuse and control was operating in plain sight, then the obvious question is, who else knew? And maybe even worse, who helped keep it quiet? Let's be honest, Diddy's not some underground figure. He's been one of the most powerful, visible men in the music industry for decades. He's hosted parties with presidents, thrown events with billionaires, collaborated with every major name in hip-hop and R&B. So you're telling us nobody knew what was happening behind those mansion gates? Well, the whispers say otherwise. For years, people have been dropping hints, just subtle enough to avoid lawsuits, but clear enough to spark suspicion. Take 50 Cent, for example. He's gone on record multiple times throwing shade at Diddy for his weird parties and sus behavior. In one interview, he even joked, "Yo, why he keep inviting me to those parties? I don't roll like that." Back then, people laughed it off. Now, it's being replayed on TikTok like a warning we all missed.
You and Puff haven't liked each other business-wise for a long time.
Well, that's why it's only business. It was really, away from that, I explained why I didn't hang out with him, right? Because it's fluffy stuff going on.
It's not your scene.
It's not my style.
Not your scene.
They hug you from the front and the back at the same time.
It's not your thing.
Then there's Jaguar Wright, the controversial soul singer who's been airing out industry secrets for years. She's mentioned Diddy's name before, alleging that he was involved in stuff that would destroy his legacy if it ever came out. People called her crazy. But now that Cassie's story is out, suddenly those claims are getting a second look. Even Gene Deal, one of Diddy's former bodyguards, has been making the rounds lately, saying he witnessed disturbing things but was too afraid to speak up. He claims there were rules about what staff could see, say, or even hear, and those who asked questions were quickly removed. One line he said in an interview stands out like a flashing red light. "There were things I saw that I wish I could unsee." And it doesn't stop there. Think about how many celebrities were in Diddy's orbit. Mary J. Blige, Usher, Busta Rhymes, French Montana, Kanye, Jay-Z, the list goes on. You mean to tell me none of them ever suspected something off? Never noticed the women around him disappearing from the scene? Never questioned the cameras, the security, the constant NDAs? It's hard to believe. But here's the thing. When you're that rich, that connected, and that powerful, people don't question you. They protect you. They want access. They want deals. And sometimes, they stay silent just to stay close to the money. So now, as more footage resurfaces and more insiders break their silence, it's becoming harder and harder to pretend this was just Cassie's private trauma. No, if the whispers are true, this was an open secret. One that a lot of people either ignored or helped cover up. And if that's the case, Cassie might have cracked the door open, but there's no telling who's getting exposed next. All right, let's talk about the fallout. Because the moment Cassie dropped that lawsuit, Diddy's whole brand started shaking. And what he did next, honestly, it raised more eyebrows than it settled. So when the lawsuit hit the press, it spread like wildfire. Within hours, it was the #1 trending topic online. Everyone, from TMZ to CNN, was covering the details. And the allegations weren't just shocking, they were career-killing. People expected a public response, a press conference, a statement, something. But what did Diddy do? He denied everything, sort of. His legal team issued a brief statement calling the claims offensive and outrageous.
Now they're going to therapy, they're going to rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace.
And said he would fight it in court. But before anything actually went to trial, before depositions, before evidence could even be presented, the case was quietly settled within 24 hours. That's not a typo. 24 hours. Now let's be real. That is not normal, especially not in a case with this many serious allegations, especially when the accused is a billionaire with a team of lawyers on speed dial. Most people expected this to drag out for months, if not years. So when Diddy just paid and the lawsuit disappeared, that looked less like a legal win and more like panic mode. Legal experts even started chiming in. One attorney told Rolling Stone, "Settling this quickly makes it look like he was terrified of what would come out in discovery." Translation? Diddy may have wanted to make this all vanish before more names, footage, or documents hit the surface. And the silence didn't stop there. No interviews, no Instagram lives, no video statements, just a wave of silence from a man who's never been shy about showing off his lifestyle. Meanwhile, his team was scrubbing social media, and insiders say they started tightening up PR across all his ventures. Revolt, DeLeon Tequila, Sean John, everything. And you could feel it. Brands started backing away. Industry folks, some of whom were glued to Diddy for years, started going ghost. No more love-era branding, no more motivational posts, just digital crickets. Even his closest celebrity allies stayed quiet. That's when you know it's bad. When not even your famous friends are willing to throw you a public lifeline, that's not loyalty, that's survival instinct. And look, Diddy's made it through scandals before. He's dodged lawsuits, beefs, even violent altercations. But this isn't about bad press. This is about alleged criminal behavior, and a lifestyle so dark and controlled, it's got the internet wondering how much was hidden behind the cameras. So the question is, why settle that fast if you're innocent? Why disappear when you've got the resources to defend yourself? Because maybe, just maybe, Cassie's claims were only scratching the surface.
One of their key witnesses against the rapper appears to have gone missing.
Now here's where the ripple effects start hitting like a tidal wave. Because Diddy's not just fighting off a scandal, he might be watching his entire empire collapse in real time. Let's start with the business side. Because when you're worth hundreds of millions and your name is attached to everything from TV networks to vodka brands, perception is currency. And right now, that currency is burning. After the lawsuit, Diddy's brand took an immediate hit. Revolt TV, which he helped launch and brand as a black excellence media empire, went into crisis mode. While they didn't drop him outright, the tone shifted. Less Diddy-fronted content, less promotion, more internal silence. And let's not forget, this was supposed to be his baby. If he's getting distanced from that, it's serious. His liquor brand, DeLeon Tequila, also started seeing blowback. Online, people were calling for boycotts. Influencers who once promoted the brand deleted sponsored posts. Retailers started getting questions. One insider claimed that sales meetings were being canceled behind the scenes to avoid the optics. When your money is tied to image, all it takes is one scandal to make the phone stop ringing. Then there's Sean John, the fashion label that once put Diddy on the map as a mogul. After the lawsuit, even legacy media started revisiting old stories about past lawsuits, models who accused the brand of unsafe work conditions, and whisper campaigns that had never made headlines. Now, they're all being dug up again like receipts at a crime scene. But the most telling sign? Silence from his peers. Go look at your favorite rappers, producers, and collaborators. Notice something? Nobody's defending him. Not Jay-Z, not French Montana, not even the people who used to call him Big Bro on camera. It's like a digital ghost town. And in an industry where silence speaks volumes, that's the kind of abandonment that usually means one thing. They don't want to go down with the ship. And let's not ignore the fan reaction because the internet is done playing nice. TikTok is flooded with clips, people breaking down court docs, theorizing who else was involved, and calling out Diddy's entire career as a lie built on pain. There are montages going viral of him talking about love, positivity, and empowerment, now juxtaposed with Cassie's lawsuit quotes. And it hits hard. Even his own fans are turning on him.
You put Johnny Depp on the stand. It's always a high-risk strategy. It worked for you. If you were representing Sean Diddy Combs, would you put him up?
Well, we put Johnny up because he was telling the truth. So that was a very easy decision to make.
What's worse is that this isn't just a temporary dip in public opinion. It's legacy damage. The kind you don't come back from. The kind that follows you forever. Because once your name is linked to trafficking allegations, secret parties, abuse, and hush money, it's no longer about clearing your name. It's about whether anyone wants to be associated with you again. And right now, that list is getting shorter by the day. So when people ask, can Diddy survive this? They're asking the wrong question. The real question is, how much of his legacy is left to even survive? All right, so if everything we've seen so far is just the tip of the iceberg, then the question we all need to be asking is, How deep does this thing actually go? Because here's the truth. If Cassie's allegations are even half true, then we're not just looking at one abusive relationship gone wrong. We're looking at a system, a whole infrastructure of enablers, insiders, and gatekeepers that may have helped Diddy keep this lifestyle hidden for years and possibly decades. Let's not forget, Cassie wasn't the only one. Since her lawsuit hit, there have been multiple reports that other women, and even former employees, are preparing to come forward. Some are allegedly working with attorneys, others with journalists. A few names have already made their way into whisper networks on Reddit, TikTok, and blind item blogs. And the pattern? It's scarily consistent. Control, coercion, drugs, surveillance, and most disturbingly, recordings. Remember? Cassie said Diddy recorded her without consent, that he filmed these so-called FreakOff sessions. If that's true, there may be tapes out there. Digital files, SD cards, cloud backups, evidence that could absolutely destroy not only Diddy's career, but drag down everyone involved. We're talking possible RICO charges, federal investigations, public figures getting subpoenaed, and that's not a conspiracy theory. That's based on real federal actions already taking place. Let's not forget, the feds raided Diddy's homes in both Los Angeles and Miami in early 2024. Helicopters, tactical units, seized devices, the whole nine. That doesn't happen over a rumor. That happens when there's probable cause and something big they're looking for. And while his lawyers are trying to play it cool, insiders are saying that what the government found in those raids could change everything. Because the second the feds start digging into years of NDAs, encrypted messages, and bank records, it's game over. Now here's where things get really wild. Some believe Diddy wasn't just indulging in this lifestyle. He may have been recruiting, funding, and possibly even trading influence to keep it under wraps. Think about it. He had access to artists, models, influencers, athletes, young people trying to make it. Who would do anything for a chance at fame? And if even one of those people comes forward with corroborating evidence, the whole house of cards falls. And it's not just about Diddy anymore. Because if all of this really was going on behind the scenes, it means he didn't do it alone. There had to be handlers, fixers, lawyers, assistants, other celebrities. And that's the part that's making people sweat. Because the deeper this goes, the more likely it becomes that the spotlight shifts to names that are still active, still visible, still pretending they had no idea. So, yeah, Cassie may have blown the whistle, but what comes next could crack the industry wide open. So now that everything's out in the open, or at least starting to come out, there's really only one question left to ask. Do you believe her? Because Cassie didn't just accuse Diddy of being a toxic ex. She accused him of running a secret, high-level trafficking ring, of drugging, manipulating, and recording her for years, of turning his wealth and fame into tools of control. And then she dropped a word, FreakOff. That might end up being the thread that unravels everything. And let's be honest, the silence from the industry, the sudden settlement, the federal raids, it's starting to look less like coincidence and more like a cover-up unraveling in real time. More people are coming forward. More stories are starting to align, and the world is finally asking questions that should have been asked a long time ago. So whether you've been following Diddy for years or just now waking up to the headlines, this moment matters. Because it's not just about one man falling from grace. It's about exposing what power can hide when nobody dares to look. But what do you think? Is this the beginning of justice finally catching up? Or is the machine too big, too protected, to ever fully come down? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story's far from over.